welcome back to special episode part 2 of Two Dumbbell Blondes. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Katie.
And if you are watching us on YouTube, hello, be sure to like and subscribe. And whatever platform you're listening to us on, be sure to rate with those 5 stars and give us a follow. Today, we are doing a part 2 of our special little episodes for New Year, New You BS. And we are going to share a little bit with you guys of what we're hoping to and looking to achieve into the new year.
I know, I was just thinking as you were introducing, I'm like, gosh, we're almost hypocritical. We're like, oh, New Year's resolutions are such bullshit. But let us tell you what our goals are. But
well, to be fair, I think that both you and I are already working towards next year already. Like, we're not waiting
Correct.
for anything. We're like already humming along, and we'll share some of that today.
Yes. And I do think it's important for everyone that's listening to know us a little bit deeper. We have these incredible guests on, and we talk about them and their backstory and what their passions are. And sometimes we don't get to share about us. So I'm excited to share what we've got going on and what we are hoping to accomplish in the coming year and beyond.
Yeah. And if they are a regular listener, I'm hoping it's because they somewhat like us. So they probably somewhat care what we have going on in our lives. So when we were talking through last episode and this episode, we're like, we should just kind of candidly talk through what are we working on and what are we shooting for into 2025. So Katie, I know you've had a lot of literally very recently big changes in your life, and it is a big deal. And why not start off with a bang? So I'm going to have you go first.
Well, thanks. So 2024 was a year that if I would have been sitting here in 2023, nothing that I thought was coming would be coming. So I had no idea that we were going to start a podcast. No idea that I was going to open the studio. So my last year was a complete whirlwind. And in last episode, we did just talk about, like, you have no idea the trickle effect of decisions you make. And so after coming out of 2024 and still just trying to wrap my head around all the incredible change, I decided this morning to sign a lease to expand my studio. So I have, in 6 months or 7 months, I've outgrown the space that I'm in. Never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined the success that I would have. And so it was scary, really scary to sign a lease to expand. So that happens February 1st. So with that, as I was thinking about 2025 and being realistic of what I could accomplish and really have brain space and power to focus on, it really right now is that. And so, you and I have chatted with Brandon, like, what are health and fitness goals? And I'm like, right now, my goal is just to maintain what I'm doing and to not have, because obviously my workouts are important for a lot of reasons, mental health and my physical health and all of the things, just to maintain that while obviously launching this second part, this more space of my new studio. And with that comes hiring more staff. With that comes all the accounting and making sure that I'm set up correctly for a new business. I mean, just all the things that you don't really think about. It's overwhelming. And I'm a little like drinking from the fire hose and just hoping that next year, I mean, who knows? Next year at this time, it could be something totally different. But that's my focus for 2025. And I'm really, really excited.
So wherever you guys are listening or watching right now, I want you to stop what you're doing and give her a clap, give her some snaps, whatever you can do, because this is a big deal. And I know the amount of stress Katie has put on herself to have it be successful over this past year. And it shows because of the fast growth that she's had. And if you don't know Katie or you're not around the Twin Cities, anytime I have conversations with people about Katie, she is known for being really great with coaching both littles and bigs when it comes to tumbling, when it comes to gymnastics, when it comes to even strength training for those things as well. And so it's interesting because I know Katie has had these hesitations and these doubts, but when I have conversations with people, they're like, well, that's no brainer. Like Katie's always been that person. She's always been good at this and that. And like that totally makes sense that she would be expanding and being successful and growing. So
Oh, thank
huge
you.
congrats to you, because I know there's a lot of people on your side cheering you on. And I have no doubt that you're going to take that new space and also turn it into a huge success.
Well, I'm really excited and thank you. Those are very, very kind words. Also, what's exciting about this new space is there is a dedicated space for a podcast studio. So we have done, well, season one, we did mostly in person, and we did a makeshift space in my current studio, but it was not Two Dumbbell Blondes branded. And every day we would bring in mats and we would soundproof it and we would just do all the things to make it work. And then season two has been was all virtual. And so as we move into season three, and we're not quite sure what that's looking like yet and what our focus, we did some goal setting and brainstorming around it. But we will have our very own studio, which is just the next step in this and really exciting. So not only is it great because I'll get to help more human beings and littles and their tumbling, hopefully we bring in, more fitness aspect, because originally that's what we thought we were doing. And then, oh my gosh, the tumbling side of it exploded. Now we can do it all, Linz.
I know we talked about that when we met with the podcast, that something we felt was missing from season one to season two was the in-person connection. And as much as we can accomplish virtually with our guests and like even the ease of it for us, I think there is something to be said for being together and having just that like in-person presence and vibe about it. And also the communication that happens pre and post recording with ourselves and with our producer, Brandon. So I'm excited to get back to some of that and then still keeping some of the virtual as needed for those guests. But in that space, it's going to be beautiful and branded and all the things in your space.
All of the things. And with that, I will just say, I talked last episode just about my movement. And when I do have an hour or less, even more, my focus, I love to strength train, and strength training is what helps me mentally and physically, but I've noticed that my movement has really dropped. So while I don't want to set a goal around, I don't think I'll ever run a marathon. You guys know my love, hate, just
You
for
got
running.
better. You got better this past year.
Yeah. I just would, if there's any sort of fitness goal, it would be to incorporate just more movement and doing that. I'm going to start teaching GTX at Lifetime, and I'm excited about that just because I love to coach and it is right up my alley and doing something different. But I think that I don't want to put any hard and fast goals around it because I just don't think mentally I can. It's not realistic. It would be too big, but I'm rebounding, as you guys learned last episode, and just trying to move more. So I think that, and then my last goal, I bought a house a couple of years ago and intended it to either in the future be some sort of a rental investment property or to update it and sell it. And my daughter, I live right across the street from the school that my daughter goes to school at. And so maybe towards the end of this year, thinking about moving on to the next project or the next home. But I've got a couple more projects to do around here. So again, I don't know if I have the brain capacity for all of that, but when I think big picture and I think like, this is what I would like to accomplish, studio is first and foremost. And that's where all of my energy is going. And then as I start to be able to take on more, that's where I'm gonna put my efforts, at least as of right now.
So I know some people listening do go to your studio or are aware of it. Yeah. What all, like envisioning next year, like what all are you doing in that space?
Well, so we offer tumbling for dancers, cheerleaders, or just kiddos that want to tumble. It's not a gymnastics facility, so there's not bars, beam, vaults. It really is tumbling. Primarily working with, I mean, I started working with dancers and teaching them because now dance has become so much more acro. So teaching them that, but then also working with a lot of cheerleaders because obviously tumbling is with competitive cheerleading and even high school cheerleading. We do with all of the classes that we have for kids, we also have a strength and fitness component because I believe you can only dance or cheer or do tumble so much before really strength will allow you to go to the next level. And also for these young athletes and these young humans, learning how to strength train and feeling comfortable around weights and really teaching them like this is why we're doing this and this is where you're going to feel it, just trying to get that education young so that as they get older and go off into high school and college, they can walk into a fitness facility and not feel intimidated. So that is a big component of it. And so next year, I also have a small dance space. I have Liz, who was one of our guests. She was a Rockette and a professional dancer in New York City for years and years and years. She also does some dance, like technique and turns and leaps classes and private. So I'm going to expand my space there so we can offer more of that. And then from a fitness side, my fitness space right now is teeny tiny, and it is going to also expand because I've had a number of parents and just past clients and people that are sitting there while their kids saying, well, I would really love to do this. And I feel safe here. I know who you are. I know, I see what you're doing with my kids and wanting to have a space where they could also start to get into that world. So hopefully expand the fitness offerings, maybe we have our 2 dumbbell blonde programming online, maybe bring some of that into it. So really just expanding beyond the tumbling aspect. And I mean, the bigger space will allow 2 different tumbling spaces so we can accommodate more kiddos at the same time.
Yeah, that's all
Because
super exciting.
with kids, it's interesting. I mean, adults too, because we oftentimes work during the day, but I feel like COVID really has allowed adults to be able to have more flexible schedules. But with kids, it's only in the evenings and on weekends. So trying to maximize those times and availability for when they want to come.
And even going to your point of like filling your time efficiently, like going on the rebounder when you did,
Yeah.
you talked about how a lot of parents will come in with their kids that tumble and they just sit there and they're not doing anything. And so it's like, oh, well, now they can start to strength train while their kids are tumbling. So it's providing for the whole family.
It sure is. So, which is allows me to live my passion of helping people feel better about themselves. And I always say, yes, it is about the tumbling and it's about them learning new tricks. But really, if I could wrap it up, I want these humans to leave my space feeling like badasses that they are and feeling just really, really great about themselves and having that confidence and all of those things. So I just hope that I can have a bigger impact on so many more people, young and old, and help people feel confident in themselves. And we are all just so truly magical, and everyone has their own thing, and sometimes it gets lost. So helping people find that and just feel really great about themselves, because the world is a better place when everyone is shining their bright light. Okay, well, how about you, Linz? Enough about me. Year 2024 was insane. You are a superhuman, and I'm so excited to hear what you have in the works for 2025.
I don't feel superhuman. I feel super tired.
Well, let's just take a minute to reflect. And your 2024, you set enormous goals for yourself, and you accomplished them, Lindsay. Not very many people have the dedication and I mean, just all of it to be able to accomplish, like, not just 1, 2, 3. I mean, you just kept going and going and going. And I know that you are feeling it, but 2024 was a moment of celebration for you of all the incredible things you accomplished. But I think also, like, hearing you talk, like, okay, I maybe need to slow down a little bit and give my body and my mind and my soul and all of it a moment to recover. And that's okay. That's life.
Yeah. So I think leading
Can you
into
list out really quick all that you accomplished in 2024? Because it's mind blowing to me.
Well, originally I had set out to do 4 things. So I said before we started this podcast, my word of 2024 was tough. Like I was purposely seeking out tough things for the entire year and things that definitely pushed me. So originally I had set out a 300-pound deadlift. That didn't happen. I think I got like my max ever is 270. So I don't know what I was thinking because I was like 10 pounds heavier and that was like 10 years ago, but that one didn't happen, but tried. The second one was the Grand Canyon, which we had an episode on. So hiking it twice, the tri-rim. The third one was the Running Man. Originally set out to do a 50K, ended up doing a half because I had hurt myself in the Grand Canyon. And then the last one is a High Rocks. Didn't fit that into last year, but we are doing it in February of 2025. So that's kind of like my last event that I'm signed up for, and then I'm gonna take a break because
Well, and that's good. And let's just talk about that. Like you're hiking the Grand Canyon and the 50K, or you're like, I mean, those things plus a 300-pound deadlift, like they're not necessarily complementary of each
Mm-mm.
other. Like your training would be so different for both of those things. So I'm actually, from a friend and someone who loves you's perspective, I'm glad you didn't try to accomplish that, because I think your body would be, I don't know, even you'd be in more pain. And tough, yes, you proved that you are one of the toughest.
Well, I think that going into the year, like the previous 2 years, I had just kind of been going through the motions, and not that I don't ever have goals for myself, but I didn't have big goals. I didn't have events. I was just kind of like showing up and doing the work, and that helped me stay consistent. I never like went backwards or anything. So then I was like, you know what? I haven't done an event in a long time. Like I do want to push myself. I want to do tough things. I want to see what happens because I also, and we've talked about this, I will also avoid things if I don't think I'm going to be good at them. So it was my way of like forcing myself to try things, even if I wasn't
Yeah.
going to win them or like do the best at it or whatever. Like I was still doing it. So there's a lot of things that I learned over this past year about my body, about my mental state. And I wouldn't maybe have gotten that if I wouldn't have pushed it a little bit. But I also tell people all the time, like, so I'll be 37 next month. And I always say, I just feel like I just got out of college and I feel good. And like, I don't feel like I'm almost 40 and whatever. This year, I feel it.
Well, and I mean, okay, it could be age, but it could also be that you set out to achieve some really challenging, you trained so hard, Lindsay, watching your dedication and not only starting a new podcast, but expanding your nutrition program. And I mean, just all of the things that you've done, and knowing the level that you hold yourself to. Like, you inspire me every day, like getting up and just grinding it out and doing it. And watching you this past year and really getting to know you even, better, and just understanding who you are as a human is just so inspiring, and has allowed me, like, yes, I have the new gym, but like, okay, if Lindsay accomplished all of these things, like what's one thing that I could do? Like what's one behavior change? Cause it's incredible. And you should be so, so proud.
Thank you.
At the same time, I'm really glad you're going to slow down a little bit and give that body a
Yes.
chance to breathe.
Yep. So, like I said, the last thing I have is going to be in February. So, I'm currently training for High Rocks doubles. And then after that, I'm going to take a break. And what I mean by that is I'm just going to go back to what I had been doing leading up to this. So, focusing on my strength training, I'll probably just do like one class a week because I like the fun, I like the community, but I'm not going to put added pressure on myself for, I would say, more on the conditioning side of things. So, all of the running, all of the like impact on the body, like it just hurts, and I've had injuries, and I'm just kind of ready to chill a little bit. If I do anything new, it's going to be more of like meditation, and that comes for me in the form of like long walks. Like I didn't do a lot of those because I feel like I had other things that were priorities, and yoga, and like just doing stuff where I'm in my own space, my own head, and not feeling like I have to accomplish certain things in a certain amount of time.
Well,
Yeah.
it will be a much needed break for you and allow you to get back to like feeling good and not having those injuries. Talk to us
Mhm.
about the post you just made on
Oh.
Instagram and what your like big goal is. Or
So, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a big deal. But if you guys had been with us in season 2, we had Dave Nixon on, and Dave was someone that I hired as a mentor or life coach, or even look at it, right before I turned 30. So about 7 years. And when even before meeting him and working with him, I always had this what then felt like a pipe dream of going to Australia. This sounds silly, but I don't know if you ever watched the movie Blue Crush. Like when I was growing up, I watched it and it's about surfers. And this girl, the opening scene, she like wakes up and she goes, works out on the beach and she does her water workout and her sand workout. And I'm like, oh, what a life. Like that'd be so great. And I just like, I know that's not in Australia, but I, associate that lifestyle. And so even in college, I was like, oh, could I study abroad there? Never happened. And so anyways, long story short, I've wanted to go to Australia for a long time. I've been like, it's too far, it's too expensive. I can't take that much time off work. And it was actually a listener that forwarded me an email because Delta was having a deal with their miles. And she said, you should go. And it was just that one little push that made me look into it, realize I had enough miles, given it's only main cabin. And I know people are going to be like, oh, it's going to be such a long flight. It's one day. I can suck it up and I can do it. But I will be going in the middle of March for 2 weeks, and I will see Dave when I'm there because he's going to have like a weekend retreat. So I'm going to partake in that when I'm there as well.
oh, I'm so excited for you. So
Yeah.
how long are you going for?
It'll be 2 weeks, 2 full weeks.
And are you going to surf?
I've surfed in Hawaii. I've not done Australia. I'm actually a little nervous about just water in general. So if it's right, I will, but I've surfed before. So that may not be my thing there. I may do other stuff while I'm there. I have nothing planned as of right now. I'm planning on setting up a call with Dave and just like hunkering out the details, but all I have now is my flight.
That's great. That's great.
Yes. So
Very
that's
exciting.
been a long time. It's like a nervous goal. It's like a thing I've wanted to do that didn't feel like it could ever happen. But going back to like the age thing, I'm like, well, I'm not getting any younger. And, if there's other things I want to do in my life, like have children, I need to get this type of stuff out of the way now because it gets harder as more things come into the picture. So I am excited about that. That'll be a nice marker too, because we'll have High Rocks in February and then that'll be March. So it's kind of like like go on this trip and like, restart, refresh, whatever that is for me. So
Good for
that,
you.
yeah. And then you kind of hit on it, but from like a career path, I know last year was another big time for me because I think we've talked about on the podcast and you and I have definitely talked about it that I have put a lot of time and energy into a company that I had a lot of opportunities with, but then it got to a point where I felt like I didn't know what was next. And I was looking to other people to have those answers and to provide those opportunities and maybe played a little bit small in that because I was just sitting and waiting. So last year, between us starting this podcast, me doing more things with like local news, me doing more with my nutrition, our programming with the Two Dumbbell Blondes, all these things is my way to extend opportunities for myself. Like I want to put who I am and what I can do out there and not wait for anyone to give me those, but create those opportunities myself. And so being able to definitely join with you and Brandon in that has been huge. And I plan to do more of that into the new year. And I know you talked about like the trickle effect, and part of last year was me saying yes to everything. Like any opportunity that came my way, I was saying yes. And so I think going into 2025, it's still saying yes, but maybe being a little bit more picky on, is this the best ROI with my time? Because I did felt like I got a little spread thin and I wasn't able to do maybe as good of a job as I could have if I didn't have so many things going. But I am excited to have more speaking engagements. I'm excited to have more like corporate wellness coaching has been an opportunity that came up too. So just doing more of those things, because it goes back to your point of how do I help more people? Like, how do I have the greatest impact with my time and with the people that I am working with? So I'm excited to do that not only for myself and like how I'm doing with my nutrition, but then through our podcast. And I know we talked about in our goal setting with Brandon of like being more well known, not only within the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, but then even beyond that, and being go-to resources, being go-to for calling out all the BS, and we're excited to do more of that going into the next season. But I also wanted you to share, we had talked about your goals, but sharing, your hopes and dreams within the podcast, and just some of the listeners to be able to hear where we want to take this.
Yeah, I actually was biting my tongue, waiting to have a second. Because I one thing that I'm really excited about that we talked about in our brainstorming and goal setting session is just doing more within our own local community and doing events and just really getting face to face. Because I this has been such an awesome platform, but I think where you and I both shine is like it's what fills our souls is being able to help individuals in person. And so I'm really excited for that. Next week we have a chance to go on the news and talk a little bit and share our passion. And so that's kind of a start. We've done a couple of local events and we've got another one next week as well. And so just doing more of that. And I think, like we talked about, we are figuring out what season 3 looks like and just really critically thinking about what the like learning from our past episodes and looking at data, because obviously data tells a story, and seeing like what resonated the most with our listeners and what our listeners are wanting more of, and gearing our future and gearing season 3 more towards that. And so I'm excited. It's been I think that when we had our conversation at the end of 2023 or the beginning of 2024, our lives were very different than they are now. And we had no idea what was going to be unfolding. And so we both felt like, okay, we're going to do this. And then all of a sudden things happened and we were spread thin. And it just doesn't, I'm proud that we like stayed committed and got these things going. But as you learn, right, you're like, oh, I can only give so much time to this or to this. And so I hope 2025 is a year that allows us to really focus in and share our passions with people and cut through the BS, like you said, and just reach more people and have a greater impact. Because I think our platform, whether it's this YouTube and Spotify or our platform in life, being able to share with people and empower them to feel better about themselves is why we're doing what we're doing.
And to Katie's point, like I know we're discussing what we're looking to achieve into the new year, but we do want to hear more from the listeners. I hear like in person, or we'll hear little text messages, but message us directly on Instagram, message us on YouTube, whatever it is, because we want to help you in whatever that is that you're looking to achieve. Or maybe there's things that you're like, I don't really know where to start with this topic, and we can help. And I know we did like a little private birthday event the other week, and we did a Q&A at the end, and they were just rapid fire asking these questions. And I'm like, where's this at? Like, that's why that in person you can't really replace, and you can like accomplish so much more with it. But I want to try to get aspects of that from listeners far and wide. So wherever you are listening from, you don't have to be in the Twin Cities to like engage with us and have a conversation with us. Like, we want to hear more from you, and that's only going to help the podcast improve and get better.
So true. The last thing I wanted to mention is on last episode, I talked about having a person or having a mentor or having someone that you can bounce things off of, and they can really give you feedback. And yesterday I met with my dear friend London, and he is someone who I help him with his business. And he's someone who knows my business well. And we were talking about the potential of me taking this new space. And one thing that he said to me that has resonated, and I've thought about it nonstop for the last 24 hours, is that nobody makes it big by staying small. And so whatever your big is, it's different for each of us. And signing this lease is scary because it's more money, it's more commitment, it's a bigger business, it's all of the things. But you're not going to have the impact that you want to have if you don't take risks and just jump in. And I also mentioned last episode that, sometimes we look back and change is scary, and you think like, oh, but what if it doesn't work out? And what about this? And what about this? And making a decision and then just seeing it where it leads you is the exciting part of life. And so I just as we talk about the next year for, obviously, I'm thinking about my studio, that comment really resonated with me. And I was like, you're absolutely right. Like, me not, like, I can do this. I can do this. And just who knows where it's going to be in a year. But the same thing with this podcast. We took a risk by starting it. And I mean, there's a million, trillion, gazillion podcasts. And the fact that we are here wrapping up season 2 and looking ahead to season 3, I think it's something that I mean, maybe we imagined, but it was just like a far off dream. And so you have to take risks. And I hope that with this podcast and with our listeners and with the people in our lives, that we can just continue to have a bigger brand, but ultimately a bigger impact in the world.
And
And
yeah,
I'm excited about that.
what you're hitting on, I mentioned my word for 2024 was tough. My theme for this year is do it anyway. And so you just sharing that story and even thinking back over this past year. So whether it be the podcast, you getting your new space, me signing up for these crazy events, like you're never going to be ready. You're never going to feel 100% confident. It's going to be scary. It's going to, get the butterflies, whatever it is. But like, hey, you're alive, right? And when we start to do the things like day in and day out that we don't challenge ourselves and we don't take these risks, what's the point, right? Like life is about feeling and going through those ups and downs and proving to yourself that you can and you will. So it's like, do it anyway. Do it
Yeah.
anyway. Ready or
Do
not,
it anyway.
let's go.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
chills.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. And until season 3,
See you later.
bye.
Bye.